Page 636. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
How you doing?
Pretty good.
It doesn't, so pretty, okay, I like an honest answer always. There's this comedian, did you guys ever see, it was a while ago, this comedian did this great thing about have a nice day. When you ask someone how you're doing, or you're in the shops and they're like, yeah, I'm fine. Oh, and have a nice day. It's like, what if I don't want to have a nice day? What if I'm like really fine and content with just being the way that I am right now? Or you know, I'm in this mood. You know, you're supposed to be polite and do something. Yeah, what if I'm feeling sick and dreadful? Just own it, right? It's perhaps not what you want to hear. Though Shabbat is a time where we're trying to let go of all of those things and be able to try to allow space inside our hearts, our minds, our souls for something pleasant. And the sun is shining, which is beautiful. And so we welcome Shabbat. We commence on page 129, 129. We enter the sanctuary to welcome Shabbat. Within these walls, we sit surrounded by numberless generations. Our ancestors built the synagogue as a visible sign of God's presence in their midst. Throughout our long history and our endless wanderings, it has endured a beacon of truth, love, and justice for all humanity. Its presence guided our ancestors to lives of righteousness, holding up to them a vision of their truest selves. And together we read, "Now we, in our turn, come into the sanctuary to affirm the sacredness of our lives. May we enter this place in peace. May holiness wrap around us as we cross its threshold. Weariness, doubt, the flaws within our human hearts, the harshness of the weak, let these drop away at the door. In the brightness of Shabbat, let peace settle upon us as we lift up our hearts in prayer." And now I'd like to call up Eyal and Karen to light our Shabbat candles. Oh, you can if you want.
ברוך אתה, אדוני, אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר קידשנו במצוותיו וציוונו להדליק נר של שבת.
Amen. Thank you very much. Now that we've welcomed Shabbat, let's welcome each other. Stand up, get up, introduce yourself to someone you don't know, and wish them a Shabbat Shalom. Page 130. Bizmirod Narialo Nekama Vana Bitoda Bizmirod Narialo Yegadol Adonai Umelech Gadol Agol Elohim Ki Yegadol Adonai Umelech Gadol Agol Elohim Ki Yegadol Adonai Umelech Gadol Agol Elohim Ki Yegadol Adonai Umelech Gadol Agol Elohim L'Adonai Naria Lesu Ishenu L'Adonai L'Adonai Naria Lesu Ishenu Nekama Vana Betoda Bizmirod Naria Lo Nekama Vana Betoda Bizmirod Naria Lo Nekama Vana Betoda Bizmirod Naria Lo bottom of page 131, 4 lines from the bottom.
יעלו שדי וכל אשר בו יעלו שדי איי 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 יעלו שדי וכל אשר בו יעלו שדי איי 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 אז ירננו גולצי אז ירננו גולצי אז ירננו גולצי אז ירננו גולצי יעלו שדי וכל אשר בו יעלו שדי איי 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 יעלו שדי וכל אשר בו יעלו שדי איי 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 אז ירננו גולצי אז ירננו גולצי אז ירננו גולצי אז ירננו גולצי יעלו שדי וכל אשר בו יעלו שדי איי 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 יעלו שדי וכל אשר בו יעלו שדי איי 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 איי
On page 134.
לאדוני כל הארץ, לאדוני כל הארץ. יצאו ורננו וזמרו, ורננו וזמרו, ורננו וזמרו. זמרו לאדוני בכינו, בכינו וכל זמרה, זמרו לאדוני בכינו וכל זמרה.
Bottom of page 135, the last 3 verses, we're going to build it up. Start slow and build. Just like you're walking that hill.
רוממו, רוממו, רוממו אדוני אלוהינו, השתחוו להקודשו. רוממו, רוממו, רוממו אדוני אלוהינו,
kadosh Adonai Eloheinu, ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. Romemu, romemu, romemu Adonai Eloheinu, ve'hishamamu le'har kodsho, ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu, ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu, ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu, ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. So I just need to say something very briefly. Again, some of you may have heard me say this before. Maybe not. I don't remember where I said what. So when I grew up in America, one of our really, really close family friends was the son of a Baptist minister. And when I was a little girl, I remember once going, my parents took me to see them. We were having lunch afterwards, and I'd never been to church. I didn't know what that was about. So I went into, it was an African-American Baptist church, which is different than like a white Baptist church, just saying. Just the energy, the feeling, the melodies and everything. Just like if you go to Sephardi or, it's like they're different melodies in different spaces. But I went in, and I have to say, it was like just the energy was electric. Like, it was just everybody was physically up, moving. It was just, I mean, sometimes you go to Chabad and you can feel that too, depending on which Chabad you go to. But it's like you feel it with your whole body, but it fills the space around you. Raise your hand if you've seen the movie Keeping the Faith. Everyone whose hand is not up, you need to go and see that movie. It's hilarious and it's brilliant. It's the story of 3 friends, a non-Jewish woman and 2 boys. One became a priest and one became a rabbi. Great story. But I'm just going to give away one tiny part of it, because at the end, he was trying to get some energy in his congregation, and so he hired this Black Baptist choir to come at the end to do this Enk Eloheinu, which, heads up, we're so going to do that here one of these. It was just brilliant. It was just brilliant. And at the end, and they came from the back, and it was, whoa! And it was good fun. Anyway, I am saying this not because I want you all to become African-American Baptists. Don't worry, that's okay. It's all good. But I do recognize that we are often inhibited when we don't know the melody, or we don't know Hebrew, or we don't know the people around us, and we're kind of insecure, we're worried about what we're doing. Some people, who I won't mention, will just give it their all, which is great. But sometimes I watch and I see your feet moving like this, slowly, and just kind of, sometimes I see a smile, sometimes I see a tap. All I'm saying is, no judgment here. Just feel it, even if you don't know it, even if you're thinking it, just feel the music. If you don't like it, I apologize, there's nothing I can do about it. But if you do, just let it roll over you, let it fill you up. Because our tradition, our Jewish tradition, says with all of our limbs, with all of our heart, our soul, and our tongues, with what we say, we feel inside and outside, feel it. And it's going to feel different to each one of us. And, so don't be afraid to just go with it, even if it's just a little bit this. But just feel it. It's fun. Enjoy it. Shabbat's a time to let loose and to just be. We now move to page 138 for Lecha Dodi, at which the last verse we rise and we face the door. So just to remind you, we'll do 1, 2, 5, 8, and 9, or just 9? 1, 2, 8, and 9. 1, 2, 5, 8, and 9. Let's do it.
Lecha Dodi, Ikerat Kala, Penei Shabbat, Mekabela. Lecha Dodi, Ikerat Kala, Penei Shabbat, Mekabela. Shamo
שמו אחד, לשם ותפארת ונצילה. לך תודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לך תודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו בדרכה, כי היא מקור הברכה. מראש מקדם משוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תפילה. לך תודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לך תודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך קומי אורי. אורי אורי שתדברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה. לך תודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לך תודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. Verse 8. ימין ושמאל תפרוצי, ואת אדוני תריצי. היד איש בן פרצי, ונשמחה ונגילה. לך תודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לך תודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. בואי בשלום, עצרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה. תוך אמונה עם סגולה, בואי חלה, בואי חלה. לך תודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לך תודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. יאללה די די, יאללה די 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 די די. לך תודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לך תודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. You felt it, I could see it. Please be seated. We continue on page 140 with Ms. Moshe.
מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני. וזמר לשמך עליון, וזמר לשמך עליון. והגיד בבוקר חסדיך, מעשה ידיך ארנן. מה רבו מעשיך אדוני, מאוד עמקו מחשבותיך. איש בעל לא ידע, וכסיל לא יבין את זאת. צדיק כתמה יפרח, כארז לבנון יזכה. שתולים בבית אדוני, בחצרות אלוהינו יפריחו. עוד ילבון בשיבה, ושנים לרעננים יהיו. להגיד כי ישר אדוני, צורי ולא עברת עמו.
We rise for the Chatzi Kaddish on page 144.
יתגדל ויתקדש מרבה.
אמן.
והעמד דברי רודה, וימליך מלכותה. בחייכון וביומכון, ובחיידךו בית ישראל. בגלה, בגלה, ובזמן קריב. ואמרו, אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך, לעולם ולעולמי עלמיה יתברך. יתברך וישתבח ויפאר ויתרומם, ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתהלל ויתהלל. שמי קודשה בריחו לעם כל בחטא ושירתה. תושבחתה ונחמתה, תמירן בעלמה. ואמרו אמן.
Yainanai,
יננאי נאי נאי נאי, יננאי נאי נאי נאי, יננאי נאי נאי, יננאי נאי נאי יננאי, יננאי נאי נאי יננאי, יננאי נאי נאי יננאי, יננאי
Please be seated. We continue on page 148, reading together in the Hebrew, thinking of the stars, the sky, and how we're connected to nature and the world around us. Baruch ata Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chokhma poteach sha'arim, uvitvuna mishane itim, ומחליף את הזמנים, ומסדר את הכוכבים במשמרותיהם ברקיע כרצונו. בורא יום ולילה, גולל אור מפני חושך, וחושך מפני אור, ומעביר יום ומביא לילה, ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה, אדוני צבאות שמו. אל חי וקיים תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני, המעריב ערבים.
אהבת עולם, בית ישראל, מצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו לימדת, אותנו לימדת. על כן אדוני אלוהינו בשוכבנו ובקומנו נשיח בחוקיך, ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד. כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו, ובהם נגה יומם ולילה, נגה יומם ולילה. ואחוותך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל, אוהב עמו ישראל. בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בעם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. ויאמר אדוני אל משה לאמור, דבר אל בני ישראל, ואמרת עליהם, ועשו להם ציצית על כנפי בגדיהם לדורותם, ונתנו על ציצית הכנף פתיר תכלת. והיה לכם לציצית וריתם אותו, וזכרתם את כל מצוות אדוני ועשיתם אותם, ולא תטורו אחרי לבבכם ואחרי עיניכם אשר אתם זונים אחריכם, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
On page 157 at the top of the page. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. on page 158.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש, מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש, נורא תהילות, עושה פלא, נורא תהילות, עושה פלא, מלכותך ראו בניך בוקר ים לפני משה ומרים. זאבים ענו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש, מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש, נורא תהילות, עושה פלא. נו, ונאמר כי יפדה אדוני את יעקב, וגלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה Adonai God Israel.
So yesterday, we had two guest speakers talking about various things. This is the season of guest speakers. You're all coming at the same time for the same conferences. And I have to say, I was in tears listening to one of them. At the end, I was happy I was in the back of the room because I was so sad listening to and watching footage of what's been happening around the world since October 7th, but also since October 7th this year. And it literally broke my heart. And ironically, as we are coming up to the 9th of November, Kristallnacht, and I literally remember last year having the same epiphany that right after October 7th last year, literally right after, everybody started blaming the Jews. And I forget his name, Elon, the reporter, does anyone remember his name? Elad. So Elad was saying that he went and he was listening. He went to a they say pro-Palestine, but really an anti-Israel rally, and trying to understand what was it. They said on the 9th of October last year, and he had three different responses. But one of them, he says, well, they deserve it. I don't care. Babies, old people, it doesn't matter. They deserve it. They brought it on themselves. And I was like, wow, what happens to one's humanity that you lose compassion so quickly? And I thought of Herschel Grinstein, like the whole trigger for Kristallnacht, right? Of blaming the Herschel, the 17-year-old who shot the German diplomat, and so therefore that was in Paris, and so therefore that justified destroying all of the Jewish businesses, synagogues, burning, killing, and so forth. And then the insurance companies blamed the Jews. They brought it on themselves. The parallel is just, it sits and makes me sick in my stomach. And so after going through a series of really depressing things that are happening around the world. He says, but we can't lose hope. I'm like, great, thanks. But it's true, we can't. And as much as we get knocked down, as much as all this stuff is out there, we actually can't afford to give up. They couldn't afford, and we can't afford to give up. And I say this now because on page 160, the Hashkivenu, it's a prayer asking God to protect us when we're feeling troubled, when from enemies or illness, famine, and sorrow. For all these things, it's giving us a cocoon that we need to get the strength to be able to carry on and not let us consume in sadness and grief, and remind ourselves of other things. But that's what this prayer is about. So I invite you all, as I will do right now, to just throw ourselves and let it surround us, this prayer, and to give us this strength to shelter us, to give us strength to be able to go and face the world and do what we need to do as proud Jews and Zionists.
השכיבנו, אדוני אלוהינו, שלום בעמידנו, מלכנו לחיים, ופוס עלינו, סוכת שלומך, ותקננו בעצה טובה מלפניך, והושיענו למען שמך, והושיענו למען שמך, והגן בעדנו והסר מעלינו אויב, ושמור צאתנו ובואנו לחיים ולשלום מעתה
We continue and we rise for the Amidah on page 164. We're going to do just the first part, the Adonai Sevatai Tivtach, twice, and then we're going to continue silently through page 180, and when you are done, you may be seated.
Adonai, Yananai, Nai, 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 Sfatai, Tiftach, Yananai, Nai, 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 Ufi Yagid, Tehiratecha, Yananai, Nai, 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 Adonai, Yananai, Nai, 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 Sfatai, Tiftach, Yananai, Nai, 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 Ufi Yagid, Tehiratecha. יושבי תבל, ואמרו, אמרו, אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל. אמרו, אמרו, אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל. ואמרו, אמרו, אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל. ואמרו, אמרו, אמן.
Did you realize I just sounded like Santa Claus? Ho, ho, ho. Did you know that? I meant to say hey, 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 but you know. It gives me great privilege to announce our guest speaker for this evening, Yair Lutstein, who is phenomenal, who I have heard about from my son for quite some time, who is the president, chair of the Israeli Movement for Progressive Judaism and has been for a few years. He's also the vice chair on the board of directors for Keren Kayemet HaYasod. He is a lawyer, served in the IDF, Military Advocate General Corps, for 23 years. Again, my son wanted to be a lawyer in the Israeli army to make sure that Israeli soldiers stay to their ethical code, just wanting to keep everybody honest, and finished his term with the rank of colonel. Yair has done an amazing amount throughout Israel, advocating for our progressive movement in Israel, fighting for values and rights that we have, and it is a great honor to be able to have you here today, Yair. So thank you. And he just arrived this morning, so if he falls asleep, then we'll understand
if I fall
it.
asleep, you'll forgive me.
You have to use this one.
Okay. Can you hear me without it?
No, they can't
Okay.
online, so.
All right. So Shabbat Shalom. I'm thrilled to be here this evening, and thank you, Rabbi Conyer, for inviting me to speak before this Kilat Kodesh, this holy community, on this Erev Shabbat. These are heavy, gloomy days for us living in Israel. Most of us are not yet post-traumatic. We're still very much within the trauma of October 7th and what has transpired in almost 13 months since. Yesterday was another very difficult day. I don't know whether you've heard, with 7 Israelis being killed by mortars and rockets and deadly drones shot into Israel from Lebanon by the Hezbollah, 5 killed in the northerly community of Metula, and another 2, a 60-year-old mother and her 30-year-old son, killed in a town just north of Haifa. But before talking about what we have been going through, I want to remind us that this Shabbat we will be reading Parashat Noach, the portion of the Torah divided to the mythical story of Noah, the ark, the pairs of animals, the flood, the dove returning to the ark with an olive branch in its beak, the rainbow, and later the story of the Tower of Babel. I'll only mention a couple of contextual connections between Parashat Noach and the ongoing multi-front war waged by Israel at present. I have to find my contextual stuff. At the beginning of the portion, God explains why he will destroy almost everything on earth by declaring in the English translation, "And the earth was corrupt before God, and the earth was filled with violence. And God said unto Noah, the end of all flesh is come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them. And behold, I will destroy them within the earth." But what does it say in the Hebrew? ותשחט הארץ לפני אלוהים ותמלא הארץ חמס. Hamas, okay? It talks about Hamas. ויאמר אלוהים לנוח, קץ כל בשר בא לפניי, כי מלאה הארץ חמס. It's remarkable that even in this context it talked about Hamas, about violence, another word for violence in Hebrew. Twice we chillingly learned that the earth was filled with Hamas, and I'll talk about the rainbow a little bit later. I'm here in Australia to join before I talk about why I'm here, I want to talk about a little bit about where we are trauma-wise. Erev Yom of Rosh Hashanah, I'm called into the offices of the IMPJ, the Israel Reform Movement, to sign some checks. It happens. Sometimes the president of the organization has to sign checks. And I'm sitting in the bookkeeping department of our organization when I see one of the bookkeepers, Chagit, who's looking not well. Her son, on the first week of the war, was in a armored personnel carrier that was hit by a missile. 6 of the guys with him in that armored personnel carrier were killed. He was the driver. He feels guilty. He was badly injured. He was on the brink of death for several months. He's now coming back to himself. And so I said to her, how's he doing? She says, well, physically he's fine. He's getting better. But emotionally he's broken. He can't deal with the fact that he's alive. His friends are dead. He can't deal with life in general. And then she walks out of I say to her, can I give you, and I said, and how is, her son's name is Maor. How is Maor's mom? She says, well, we live day by day. It's almost impossible the year that we've gone through. And she steps, I give her a big hug. I said, can I give you a hug? You know, I don't just give people hugs. You know, we have to be careful about these things. I asked her if I can give her a hug. She said yes. And she steps out of the room, and another woman comes into the room. Her name is Rabbi Yael Katz. She's the head of our department of community building. And she's got 4 sons, 2 of whom have been in and out of Gaza since the beginning of the war. And I said, how are you, Yael? I could see her face was not well. She says, one of my sons was just called up to Lebanon. And she was about to, I said, you need a hug, I think. And she got a hug. So those are the kind of post-traumatic things, or not post-traumatic, but trauma that we're experiencing day to day. I'm here in Australia to join dear friends at the UPJ to celebrate their biennial next weekend in Canberra, and I'll be looking forward to that very much. But in that context, I want to tell you that almost a year and a half ago, in June of 23, we started preparing for our Vida, our biannual movement-wide celebration, which was meant to take place during the last few days of May this year. At the beginning of this year, 2024, the steering committee of that biennial realized that this was no time for celebration. Some of us believe that at this stage of the war, at the very least, that is, in May, we will already see the light at the end of the tunnel. Unfortunately, we still find ourselves deep in those tunnels with 101 of our brothers and sisters, quite literally in tunnels in Gaza, having been taken hostage more than 400 days ago with little light in sight. So instead of having a movement-wide celebration, we decided to hold a day-long ingathering of our communities. It took place at the end of May at a venue called Kiryat Moriah in Jerusalem, and we thought that given the circumstances, only maybe 250 or 300 people would want to show up. We knew the caterers could provide meals for 620 and shut down the registration when we hit 750. And at Kabbalat Shabbat, held on the lawn of the venue, we had over 1,000 people from over 50 of our kihilot, our communities from around the country, 1,000 plus Israeli Reformed Jews coming together because they wanted to be together at this time. It's important for us to be together. At the opening plenary of that morning, we heard several speakers, amongst them a man by the name of Lee Siegel, who's the treasurer of Kihilat Birkat Shalom in Kibbutz Gezer. Lee's brother, Keith, as well as his wife Aviva, were taken hostage by Hamas terrorists on October 7th from their home in Kibbutz Kfar Aza, very near the border with Gaza. Aviva was released late last November in the only round of hostage releases which have taken place till now. Since then, she has become well known not only in Israel, describing some of the particular horrors women endured while in captivity. At the plenary, Lee talked about his despair because of our government's lack of true willingness to come to an agreement with Hamas for the release of the remaining hostages. He talked too of the support he receives from his community and from our movement, having been embraced and strengthened by both. Lee is with us at almost all Saturday night Havdalah services that we hold at the Hostage Square in Tel Aviv, and he helps us lead those services because it gives him strength. Another speaker at the plenary was a woman by the name of Anna Astamker. Anna is the CEO of my community in Jerusalem. I live in Jerusalem, Kilat Kol Shema. She's also the first cousin of Karina Ariav, a 19-year-old, actually she's now 20 years old, soldier who was abducted by Hamas militants from her base in Kibbutz Nachal Oz, one of the women soldiers serving in an intelligence unit who for weeks before October 7th were warning their commanders that something unusual was taking place on the other side of the border, the other side of the fence in Gaza. But no one listened nor believed. It was only young girls talking to them. Most of the women with whom Karina served in Nachal Oz were slaughtered that horrific morning. But a handful, 5, were taken hostage. Anna, Karina's first cousin, noted at the plenary that Karina's parents are beside themselves. At home most of the time, they fear that Karina might be pregnant. Anna too mentioned the strength and support she feels being embraced by her kihila and by our movement. I'm usually pretty proud of being chairperson of the Israeli Reform Movement. I have been doubly so since that horrific day. During 13 months, I have learned the term to punch above our weight. From day one, our movement has punched well above our weight, exhibiting our growing influence within Israeli society. To begin with, our rabbis, the backbone of our movement, have been absolutely stellar, providing pastoral and spiritual guidance to all their congregants, people who have lost loved ones, parents of soldiers serving in Gaza and elsewhere, families of hostages, helping those displaced from their homes in the southern and northern regions of the country, now living in hotels and guest houses around the country, officiating at funerals, including a novelty, I must say, military funerals run by Reform rabbis, something that never happened before. I want to note 3 notable rabbis in particular. Yael Vorga, and I think she was here in Australia in March, but she continues to be amazing. The rabbi of our community in Shara Negev, which is right around Gaza. This is a sui generis kihila with no building of its own, serving kibbutzim in the area most particularly affected by the ravages of Hamas on October 7th. Communities such as Kfar Aza, Nachal Oz, Miflasim, Nir Am, Or Haner, and more. Before the war, they met every Erev Shabbat in their Moadon, their clubhouse of one of those kibbutzim. On October 7th, the regional council took a hit from which it has yet to recover, even now, even more than a year later. Hundreds killed, many taken hostages, hundreds physically and emotionally injured, the communities dispersed, unprecedented physical destruction of the communities themselves. Rabbi Vorgan has provided spiritual and pastoral care for her dispersed flock and has officiated at dozens of funerals. The second rabbi is Yael Kari, the rabbi of the Mateh Asher Regional Council along the border with Lebanon. Her community is dispersed all over the country. She herself has had to move 7 times since the beginning of the war because each time the place that she moves to, again, has been moved to other places. And lastly, Rabbi Orit Rosenblit of our community in Kiryat Shmona. Orit's home is in the town of Metula, where those 5 folks were killed yesterday. Right on the border, 50% of the homes in that town have been destroyed. They don't exist anymore because they take direct hits from anti-tank missiles. It was a beautiful community before then. And to add insult to injury, she had to deal with the fact that her nephew was killed in action in Gaza at the beginning of the war. 3 remarkable spiritual leaders, 3 remarkable women that we are blessed to have as part of our rabbinic clergy in our movement, and they're working with their flocks in unfathomable conditions. There's not enough time here this evening to describe all the other remarkable things our movement has done since October 7th, but I'll just give you some headlines, if that's okay, Rabbi. From day one, our Tikkun Olam branch has provided much-needed support, physical, educational, emotional, to thousands of people who have been internally displaced and are living in temporary housings in hotels or the like. Members of our communities have been volunteering and, for example, doing agricultural work. I've been doing that myself, trying to do it at least once every 2 weeks. I've picked strawberries, sweet potatoes, tangerines, grapefruit, avocado, pomelos, and the one that usually gets a laugh out of folks like yourselves, medical marijuana. That is also needed. And we have our pockets checked before we leave. We also want to make certain that the day after, not in Gaza and not in Lebanon, but in Israel itself, will require us to remember that 20% of Israel's citizens are not Jewish, and we must share society with them. Iraq, that's the Israel Religious Action Center, our remarkable social justice legal arm, has been at the vanguard of that struggle with many successes, ensuring Israel is not racism when racism against Arabs could be so easy. During Sukkot, just a couple of weeks ago, I got a WhatsApp message from someone by the name of Amnon Be'eri, who wrote me to say he is the co-CEO of an organization called the Abraham Initiative, an organization which works to further shared society within Israel between Arabs and Jews. I get a lot of calls and messages and didn't get back to Amnon immediately. Phyllis knows this, I don't always get back immediately. Before I could, the next morning I got a call from him informing me that his organization had decided to bestow upon us, the Israeli Reform Movement, its 2024 Shared Society Award for the work we, along with our kihilot, our communities, as well as Iraq, the legal and advocacy branch of our movement, have been doing to further shared society in an atmosphere which is particularly toxic since October 7th. It's one of the most moving things that I am involved in since the beginning of the war. And the hostages. I have other stuff about them here. The hostages. I've already mentioned the Havdalah services for hostage families in different public places around the country every Saturday night and we're on the streets this week across from the Knesset, where there's a hunger strike by some of the families. We're there to support them, to make sure that they understand that what we're doing is important, that we understand, and that our community members understand the importance of helping and ensuring that this government, which does not always seem to have that at the top of its list of priorities, is also involved in ensuring that the hostages get home, because there's no victory in this war without the hostages or their bodies, unfortunately, being returned to Israel. That's just the tip of the iceberg, not mentioning too what we know that you here in the diaspora are going through. The rampant anti-Semitism and the generational divide. We are not oblivious to that, and please know how important it is for us and how much we in Israel feel the need for your solidarity missions. We appreciate those solidarity missions. I know that the UPJ had a solidarity mission in March, and it was a very important mission to us. And I won't even have time to mention a couple of other things. I know, Rabbi, I'm running over time. Lebanon, with no end in sight, rebuilding communities in the south, the absolute need for enlistment, and this is an issue that irks Israelis more than anything, is the enlistment into the IDF of tens of thousands of ultra-Orthodox Haredi young men who now enjoy exemptions from service, something that is unacceptable in a more and more astounding way from all Israelis. The humanitarian aid to Gaza, Israel's alleged genocide and/or other war crimes. I dealt with those things in my legal career. The fact that Israelis do not have emotional bandwidth for the empathy for the suffering of Palestinians. That is a truth, because Israel is going through very difficult days. The media in Israel and what it's showing or not showing about Palestinian suffering in Gaza, Iran, and other things. Rabbi Conner, you asked me to mention how Simchat Torah was for us this year in our communities. Simchat Torah, the day exactly a year ago when the war broke out, when what happened on the kibbutzim in the area around Gaza occurred. At my community, instead of celebrating and dancing at Simchat Torah, we had a Sichat Torah, okay, a discussion, a conversation about Torah, and more about what we have endured and continue to endure. A prayer each time we gather for the speedy return of the hostages, with members of the shul reading out the names of each hostage still in Gaza. And then the prayer for the soldiers currently serving in the IDF. Our Rabbi Oded stops and reads the names of the 60 or so soldiers, children of our members, and also older folks who are in their reserve duty presently serving. One set of parents, Dina and Steve, she originally from the US, he from England, with all four of their sons currently serving in Miluim, in the reserves, 2 on the northern front and 2 in the south. The last time I was in shul with them, one of them was home and his mother could not stop holding him. I'll conclude with a return to our parasha. As Noah finally opens the ark after months of being sequestered within it because of the flood and waiting for the waters to recede, he beholds a remarkable phenomenon, an amazing rainbow. And I'll read you the section find that again here. And he says, and the bow and the rainbow shall be in the cloud, and I will look upon it, that I may remember the everlasting covenant between God and every living creature of the flesh that is upon the earth. Earlier this week, I was at a wonderful day of prayer. This week itself, I was at a wonderful day of prayer and learning at the Hebrew Union College campus in Jerusalem. It was in honor of Rabbi Naama Ezrachim Kelman, who was the first woman rabbi ordained in Israel, who retired a year or so ago from the position of the dean of the Jerusalem campus of the college. Part of that day was led by Rabbi Liora Ezrachi, Rabbi Naama's daughter. Liora read a part of a drush her great-grandfather, Rabbi Felix Levy, gave about the rainbow in this week's parasha. He gave that sermon in 1917, before the end of World War I, and in his word of optimism can resonate till today. He wrote as follows, and this is I'm quoting parts of it. The part of the story that is to interest us is that the first sight which greeted the travelers on coming out of their ship was the rainbow. Et kashti natati ba'anan v'ayta le'ot brit beincha leben ha'aretz. What I read you before. My rainbow, said God, I have set it in the clouds, and it shall be for the sign between me and the earth and Mother Earth. God's signs of eternal promise is the rainbow. In the Hebrew, the climax is hopeful. Noah sees the rainbow in the sky, and through the flood, man has found the God who he has lost. This attitude of mind is something more than optimism, something higher than the thought that all will come out well in the end. More than a hope, it is the profound assurance in the human soul that this universe which we inhabit is well ordered, that law and order and love pervade over our whole life, that in the ruins new structures more glorious may be erected. The Jews always felt that tomorrow was to be better than today, not through a sudden divine or miraculous intervention, but through their own efforts. The rainbow connected his sky with the earth. It was his ladder to heaven. That is an optimistic message. It's hard to believe sometimes in these dark days of post-October 7th, but perhaps this week's rainbow will give us tikva, like Israel's national anthem, hope that what we need to believe in is a better future, and that better future will arrive. Halevai, let it be, bimhera b'yameinu, quickly in our times.
Amen.
Thank you.
Amen. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. See, you don't have to be a rabbi to speak a lot. But I appreciate getting a sense of, it's important to understand what's happening now. It's not just in the past. It didn't happen so long ago.
By the way, these are other hostages. Okay, I brought a whole bunch of these. I can leave them for you.
Thank
if you want.
Yeah, good.
You have
Thank
to look
you.
them.
We do, but I'm happy to put them up on our wall again. We'll take a look at what we're doing. No, it's okay. But I want to thank you so much for bringing a taste, letting us know the real effect of what's going on right now. And I like the Sikha instead of Simchat Torah, the Sikha Torah, and and what you're doing now, and how you live with it, and how we still need hope. Maybe perhaps we'll have some more conversations as to how you actually are manifesting that in Israel right now, even in the midst of it. But thank you for bringing that to us. Appreciate it. And I am conscious of the time for everyone else today. No, all good. Eyal Merrick has 1 minute to tell us very quickly about something that it's very important, talking about Israel and what we can do here. A lot of the time we think about what is it we're hearing about what's there, what can we do here to be able to help. So Eyal, would you like to come? Eyal Merrick is the president of Artza, which is the Australian branch of Artzeinu, which is looking at the Reform Zionist organization. So tell us a little bit about it very quickly. Yes.
Thank you, Rabbi. Good evening, everyone. I'll save you the 15-minute speech that I've prepared, and we'll make it condense into 1 minute. If anything that Yair spoke about today resonates with you guys, and you want to make a difference, Artza is your vehicle. Artza is your voice. It's the liberal voice, the progressive voice, in Israel, in the World Zionist Congress. You may not be aware that you can influence the liberal values and society in Israel, because your vote can affect the outcome of the election to the World Zionist Congress, which is happening this year, in 2025. So within the next year, through TBI directly or go to our website, visit. I'm sorry that I can't share with you each and everything that we are doing, but we have been doing a lot, and you can read it on our website. Please go arta.org.au, read about it. It's both to support the community here, we held many events, and it's also to try and support the IMPJ and the Israeli pluralistic value with all the challenges that are happening. So we held solidarity with Israel and the hostages here, and the Drush was supposed to speak about shalom, peace, tikkun atzmi, tikkun olam, and how we are all Arevim zelazeh, Kol Israel Arevim zelazeh. And this is your opportunity to be part of this support. And I thank you for the time, and thank you, Rabbi, and thank you, Yair.
So, thank you very much, appreciate it. But I promise you we will have you back again to speak at length, because it is amazing and very important to hear what they're doing and to hear literally how our vote really can make a difference, and to tell us more about it. So stay tuned as to when we get the expanded version of the Drush. That was just practice today. Please rise for the Aleinu on page 586, 586.
עלינו לשבח אדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגיא ארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו
We remain standing as we remember those who are no longer with us. In Shloshim, we remember Shiral Golan, who, you know, when you talk today about one of the people in your office whose son survived the attack with his thing. Shiral Golan is one who survived at the Nova Festival and suffered from survivor's guilt and took her own life. And we remember that, and we remember that the effects of what happened affect us in many, many different ways throughout just one day in our history. In Shloshim, we remember Shiral Golan, we remember Anne Bartak, we remember Alma Gamble, Peter Gruner, Roman Nechemkes, Aaron Paz, and Maria Simonova. The yahrzeits of those in our community, we remember Alma Alexander, Ellen Bando, Joseph Barger, Saul Bernstein, Rika Bliss, Jean Bowen, Samson Brown, Deborah Chempke, Brian Cohen, Marga Kosin, Jocelyn Dean, Rosa Grossbard, Norman Hendel, George Haywood, Irving Hay, Frank Malab, Bertel Menke, Dina Milstein, Miriam Rich, Frida Rogers, Kalman Rogers, Aaron Samuel, Kurt Selby, and Alice Sloman. I didn't write down the name of the people who were killed. Was it yesterday? I don't have their names either. By tomorrow I will. But we remember all of those who have died, all of the soldiers who are fighting for Israel right now, all of those who are innocent victims in Israel that the rest of the mainstream media forgets about. And we remember all of those who have no one left to say Kaddish for them. Zichronam livracha. May their memories be for a blessing. On page 598, the Kaddish Shatom, the Mourner's Kaddish. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבם, בעלמא דברך חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם עולמי עולמי, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ואמרו אמן. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved. Amen. Please be seated. Just very quickly, I want to remind everyone that tomorrow we're also going to be blessed to have an amazing guest speaker. Some of us heard her speak on Thursday at more length, but Gusti Braverman will be coming and speaking tomorrow. She's here, was the past vice president of the World Youth, wasn't she? No, of the IMG. She came out here last year, 2 years ago, as a speaker. She's doing amazing work here, speaking, bringing her wisdom and her knowledge also of what's going on in Israel, here with the Jewish Agency also out, and Zionism, Victoria, the Zionist Federation of Australia has brought her out to come and speak and help educate. So she's absolutely amazing. So if you can also come tomorrow, it would be wonderful. In the spirit of being able to understand in Israel, you guys know that there's lots of different viewpoints on the government. There's lots of different viewpoints about what's happening right now in all different aspects. So honoring that and also recognizing that Jews from all over Australia are responding to the situation differently. In 2 weeks' time, on Saturday afternoon, on the 16th of November, the New Israel Fund is bringing 2 speakers from Standing Together. I know they're very controversial, but they're bringing 2 speakers talking with a Palestinian Israeli, which I know sounds like an oxymoron, but it's not, are coming, and an Israeli Jew coming and talking about where dialogue is actually happening, even in the midst of all of this, which for me gives me a sense of hope. And anyway, so if you'd like more information about it or you're interested in hearing more about it, let me know. It's going to be 4 o'clock on the 16th of November. So that is what is going on. What I would like to do right now is invite all of you here right now to join us in the back of the foyer for Kiddush and Motzi. Those of you online will go back. You can listen to us. And I wish you all a Shabbat Shalom. ויבוקר יום השישי, ויאכלו השמיים והארץ בכל צבאם, ויאכל אלוהים ביום השביעי מלאכתו אשר עשה, וישפוט ביום השביעי מכל מלאכתו אשר עשה, ויברך אלוהים את יום השביעי ויקדש אותו, כי בו שווה מכל מלאכתו אשר ברא אלוהים לעשות. ספרי.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, בורא פרי הגפן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר קידשנו במצוותיו ורצה בנו, בשבת קודשו באהבה ורצון הנחילנו, זיכרון למעשה בראשית, כי הוא יום תחילה למקראי קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים, כי באנו ובחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים, ושבת
קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת. לחיים. Accidentally at Simchat Torah, the alcoholic and the non-alcoholic, I don't know, they weren't labeled, but let me tell you, an 8-year-old took a shot of I don't know what. Anyway, Motzi. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. B'tei Avon. Shabbat shalom, everyone. Shabbat shalom.